I went through that. I was dominant at being able to live that life, and then stuff got really good, and it's been really, really good for a long time. And maybe Nick got a little soft.
All right, what's going on, guys? My name is Nick Alfano, and you are back with Feedback, my favorite F word. If you've heard me from stage, you know I drop a lot of F words. Sometimes it costs me a few stage gigs or two. But my favorite of all the F words is obviously feedback. And I am here today with an extremely special guest. And the reason for that is, the reason he's so special to me is I'm actually on the other side of the fence right now, meaning the studio that you've seen, if you've seen any episodes prior to and the ones moving forward, this is actually his spot. This is his place. I don't have my own spot yet. My man literally just gave me keys and an alarm code and said, whatever you're doing, do it here, and let's blow it up. So it's interesting because I feel like possibly I'm being judged right now. Did I do the lighting right? Is the sound right? Like, you know, what's post-production going to look like? I'm on the other side of the Hit Lab with my man Nick Hyder, and we're going to jump into an awesome conversation around how this man built such a thing to allow me to hang out here, and all the other crazy things he's got going on. More importantly, how he processes feedback all the time and how he's been able to use feedback to pivot, course correct, and adjust to market conditions. So if you're interested in that and you want to meet the man that's usually sitting on this side of the screen, stay tuned. All right, man. So you're here. We've been talking about this for a long time. We've been talking about you're constantly getting me out of my own way, my stories around why on earth, I think we've known each other for over a year now, and I haven't even launched, professionally launched, 100% launched my podcast yet. We're kind of pre-recording episodes and banking them. And you have every single tool anybody needs to win in terms of personal brand building, social media, and any sort of digital outlet that I would need to win. I'm technically live closer to your own place than you do, and shame on me because I'm just now starting to utilize all these tools. So number one, I want to start out by saying thank you, because one thing you guys need to understand about this man before I let him speak, and I promise I won't talk over you. Every single time I've interacted with this man, it has been relational and not transactional, and I say that from a place of he is always trying to solve one, if not two or three problems of mine every single time we meet, and he never asks for anything in return. Like, I can't stress this enough, and I probably shouldn't say too much because I'm sure he's not going to do this for everybody, but like I literally have keys and an alarm code to we're going to call it a multi-million-dollar recording studio, and I can come in here at any time, right, and like play with things and get better at this game called content, called podcasting, called social media. And he's never asked for anything other than let's just see what happens. Let's take it from here. Let's just see what happens. Let's blow your personal brand up. So I just want to start out with a huge thank you. And I want people to have an idea of who you are as a human being before we even start chopping it up. So
Let's go, baby. Well, dude, it's an honor and a privilege to be here, and you are welcome, man. You're more than welcome,
So let's kind of I wouldn't say rewind, but let's just kind of talk about the steps on how you built this thing, because it's almost I wouldn't say diamond in the rough, but obviously outside it presents as not a studio per se. So maybe we could talk about the signage and see where that goes, but just kind of talk about how on earth you unearthed this gem of a recording studio.
Well, long story short, excuse me. Long story short, in 2020, we were doing what we were doing in the insurance space and having a great time doing it, and life was great. And I saw Brad Lee's studio for the very first time, and I thought, yeah, that's the future. That's the future of what we're doing. So you've been there, you can see it's laid out very similar. It's very. He inspired a lot of what we're doing here today, and and for us, it really just kind of changed the game. It gave us access to reach a lot more people and identify problems that they had and how we can help solve those. So the studio. I mean, in my opinion, we're really just getting started here, but that's kind of how the studio came about. Long story short, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I love that. And for those of you, hopefully you grabbed onto that. The first thing he mentioned, besides being inspired by the one and only Brad Lee, and you're speaking about his Vegas location, obviously, is we can be a little louder and we can identify problems and provide solutions. So it's like, how can we impact more people? How can we figure out what more people are struggling with, and then find solutions for them? Well, we can do it at scale if we can create digital media and we can blast it out worldwide. So I just love the intention behind this whole thing is beautiful because. Another thing I'll say for those of you, if you don't get a chance to stop by here, my man is so particular, like to set up for one of these things, like The Gatorade bottles that are for the guests that are in the thing have to be labeled a certain way in a certain order. Everything has to be front facing. The gap between each chair has to be exactly 4 index fingers, not 4 fingers, because the pinky's a little smaller. Like, I'm just telling you right now, my man's attention to detail is a big reason why this thing is so successful. So just to go back, I segued there. When you talk about figuring out what people are struggling with and solving it, like how do you, like, what sparked that? Was that something you've always had that like itch about you, or you're on like, is this like a character arc in your journey where you're like, okay, it's time to start pouring back into people, or have you always just tried to fix everything for everybody? Because again, to me, that's what our relationship has been for a year is, hey, Nick, how you doing? What are you struggling with? I got you. You know what I mean?
Well, it's what I've found out is a lot of us are having the same issues or the same problems that we've got to overcome and whatnot. And as far as being able to make noise, like Matt Poe is a world-renowned strength coach, and he used to teach me when he was talking about what we were doing. He's like, Nick, you have to create separation. I think he actually trademarked that. Create separation. Create separation from what? From your competition, right? So you have to stand out, okay? So, at the end of the day, there's a lot of people that can solve the problems that we solve. Yeah. So why would the customer, the buyer, choose us? Okay, and it's my opinion that like you buy from people or brands or companies that you believe in. Okay, and you believe in them because trust was earned. Well, how do you earn trust? Through repetition, right? So for me, it's all about like how many times can I get in front of you, talk about what it is that we do, talk about why we do it. And more importantly, how we can help you should that time come. You know what I mean? So like I used to use the analogy all the time. I love pizza. I love pizza.
Okay.
All right. So
I think we all do, yeah.
But you can imagine that we don't eat it as much as we used to anymore. Yeah. So, and when we do eat pizza, it's not even like real pizza anymore. It's cauliflower crust. It's healthy pizza, right? It's great. But my favorite pizza on earth is that stuffed crust Pizza Hut. All right, tears you up, man. You can't move for 2 days. But when you see the commercial, it's not pizza night when the commercial's on. But I'm like, oh yeah, it's kind of like the McRib is back type thing.
Yeah.
All the stuffed crust is back. Next time we get pizza, that's what we're gonna do. And I might forget again if I don't keep seeing it over and over again. And then when it's pizza night, and it's like, hey, what are we getting? Stuffed crust pizza.
Yeah, no brainer.
You know what I mean?
Because so you're talking about just the sheer reps, the volume that it was put in front of your face. So if you think that's because I'll tell you right now, as I sit here today, and it's embarrassing to say because you always harp on me, I have not posted on social media in almost 60 days. Not one. Not one thing.
All right.
And my story is I got my head down. I'm working on some things. We just picked up an investor. We're doing a lot of marketing behind the scenes stuff to build. Anyway, I got stories, right?
Yeah.
And one thing that you do better than anybody, that I've known, is you're constantly in everyone's face all the time. And so your argument is, your stuffed crust pizza, and I don't even know what I am. I'm cauliflower pizza, and I'm never getting thought of on pizza night. There's a valid argument there.
There is, and but even then, like we do a pretty good job with it, and I'm so proud of the team for what they're doing, for the output they are putting. And for a lot of time, it was just stuff that we were putting out. It was kind of noise that didn't really, but we learned a lot through that process. But now it's like you really got to target. You really need to target. If you have a business or you have a product, do you know who the consumer is, who the avatar is? And then where are they? And can you get in front of them? Because they can't do business with you if they don't know that you're there, right? So, and just because they saw you once doesn't mean anything. They got to see you over and over and over again until they eventually start to say, all right, let me figure out what this dude's about or what they're doing, if it's real. And that's how trust is earned. You know what I'm saying? So,
but they got to know you first. So there's the age-old adage, and this is I love to like teach my audience while we do these. There's a lot to unpack. What my man just gave you, like 85 different things you can take away. But people only do business with somebody they know, like, and trust.
That's right.
So number one, they got to know you.
That's right.
So you got to run the stuffed crust ad 6 days a week, twice on Sundays, right?
That's it.
And then they got to maybe like what they're seeing. And so to your point, we were kind of putting stuff out there, and it was noise. And then we started, let's just use the word behind my big head right here, feedback. We got some feedback on what was working and what was not. We got to give the people what they want.
Absolutely.
I think that's another place that people that are pushing social are losing. Yep. They're just putting it out to put it out, So, so we give them what they like, and then they dive deep enough, right? They try the pizza on pizza night because we're the one in front of them, and they know and like us. And then once they get a taste, they trust us. Mm-hmm. And then now we have business. Now we can conduct.
Pretty much, yeah. That's pretty much it. But again, like what you trust and what you believe, it's again, it's kind of like what you love. Well, you don't really love things. There's love at first sight, but again, you don't really know it until it's proven later through a track record, right? So again, you believe and trust is something that's very redundant. It's something that you've experienced over and over again, so that you can start to feel that comfort in whatever it is that you trust and believe in.
Okay, so the team's putting out a tremendous amount of stuff. We see that. I see that. You back up for a minute and you say, okay, we're putting things out, but we're just putting things out. So when was there like a pivotal moment when you said, let's start processing the feedback, let's process the data and change what we're putting out, or maybe the intention behind it, right? I know we've talked a lot about if every piece of content doesn't have a CTA, like a call to action, then when do you do it?
Pretty much.
And then you get pushback of, well, I'm not really trying to sell things all the time. Well, the call to action could be, click, like, subscribe, right?
That's
it could
right.
be those things. So just talk to me about like what was the moment when you said, let's start being more intentional with the content that we are producing.
It was the same process as like, in the world of insurance, which we have a very large background and a great track record there. The majority of buyers in insurance are like, basically they went on, they became a lead. Their name, phone number, email address, physical address, whatnot, became a part of a database somewhere because they asked for help finding a plan, asked for an agent to call them. And that's how, like, a very high percentage, I mean, I don't know exactly what it is, but I'd say probably 75-80% of all health insurance sales, at least with the carriers we represent, is done through, like, there was an agent purchased data and started marketing through text messages, phone calls, and emails to the people on the other end of that data. And even then, we know it's 8 to 15 contact attempts usually before a relationship is established or a deal's done, right? So, well, like, what's the difference in Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn and what we were doing there? So how do you take, if it's 35 contact attempts, or if you're closing less than 1%, well, first of all, what is the industry standard that we're aiming at? Like, what conversion rate are we aiming at?
That's the baseline, yeah.
Yes, and how do we get there? So we just really, at one day, it's like, hey, why aren't we doing this for what we're putting out? We're sending out, let's say, 2,000 text messages a day, all right, but we're also posting 30 times across 6 different social media platforms. Why aren't we measuring, what works, what doesn't? Why
where to double down our efforts. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely, right?
But see, that's processing the data or the feedback, because the reality is some people might just be excited the fact that they can say and jump up and down out loud, we are putting out 2,000 things a day.
Yeah,
right?
Dude.
And it feels cool, but oh, by the way, what are you converting at? What are your metrics? Like we call this attacking the gap. So like once you've established a baseline, let's just say you just stick with one platform. Instagram, and then the platform says for every 7 to 10 touches you should be receiving X, and then depending on your offer and your call to action, this should be the next line of sequence. So you build out this equation, and you aim for that as much as possible, and then you get to optimize, like continue to revise and optimize, and say, okay, I don't like this gap from impressions to conversations. What can we do different? We can completely be intentional with our contact, and we can our impression, our content, we can solve a problem.
Absolutely. There's big corporations. They either have whole advertising and marketing departments in their corporation, or they're hiring massive agencies that have all of these analytics and science behind everything that they do, all the way down from fonts they use in print to, colors even have psychological meanings to those. You know what I'm saying? So, like, it's more than just like, I got my phone out that I already had, and I put it, and I turned the video on, and I shot something, and I posted it to Instagram. If that's literally all it took, then nobody would advertise on the Super Bowl. Nobody would do anything bigger than that. And
Sure.
if you think about it, the ads that produce the most revenue, that solve the most problems, they're extremely high production value. They're scripted. There's a story that's being told. Every word that's said in that 30, 60, 90, or 120-second ad has a purpose. Every single thing that's happening, and it's to get the customer to a certain spot to eventually lead them to make a decision. You know what I mean? So in the world of real estate or retail, location. Well, okay, so there's locations on Facebook. Those are all locations. Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok. Those are all locations online.
Yeah.
Right. A website. It's very, very valuable. I think social media is a lot of people spend a lot of money on their websites, but they don't spend a lot of money on social. Dude, if I've been to your website once, why would I go back?
Yeah.
It's probably not going to change anytime soon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But your Instagram can change as often as you like.
That's a big one. That's a big one, folks, to listen to, because I think a lot of you can resonate. So sit back in your chair and say, how much money did I hire somebody to build my site? Oh my God, I'm so proud. I love it. It's my digital brick and mortar. It's so sexy. I haven't made a change to my website in a year, right? And then someone visit, and then you can obviously track all this with pixels and every other all the data out there. So you could track how many times either one person has visited or obviously how many visits versus, to your point, well, let's see what my guy's up to now. Let's see if he's got any new hot frameworks or some cool advice for me today, or let's just see what he's up to. I like the guy. I like him, right? So Absolutely. They're constantly checking your social, and they've been to your website one time in the last year.
Pretty much. We might push them to the website to get a subscription to get added to an email list or something like that. But again, that's how you push them there. Once they go there and they see it, why would they really go back again unless you're pushing them there, right? So how can you push them there? Well, you have to be in front of them to do that. So it's just, for me, Nick, like one of the things that I'm astounded with, I deal with this with my own booking team and whatnot. Like, let's just say, I'll use a hypothetical. So on my podcast, a lot of my guests pay to be on. Like it's a pay to play type thing. So they're paying for an appearance and a content fee. And sometimes there's other people that I'm like, man, I really need to make sure I get that person. So I might say, hey, I'll do this one for half, for half the appearance fee. But when we say, but I got to know by the end of the day to do that, we get an answer fast. Well, then the next time the booking team might do that, they don't put the deadline on it. And it's like, well, it worked.
It worked, yeah.
Why didn't you do it again?
Yeah.
Dude, we're all creatures of that stuff. There's so many things that we don't do or that we quit for no reason. I'll use my son's baseball team. We have an app that keeps them all connected. And one of my big things is I want to know what you're doing when I'm not with you. So put what you're doing all week long. I can give you some feedback and tell you, maybe critique you a little bit or say, hey, try this instead. But if I don't, 6-8 weeks go by, they're doing great. And then all of a sudden they'll kind of stop. And I'll say, hey guys, why do we stop doing that? They're like, I don't know. They just quit and they don't even know why. So that's the thing when it comes to social media and me, we got so deep in it, Nick, that it shows so much value to me. I can't do without it. I just can't. I have to have it. It's a massive, it's almost like the bloodline of everything that we're doing. And I can reach hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people every 30 days, anytime I want to. And that's incredibly powerful. I saw a thing, an example the other day I thought was really cool. It says, for those of you that you have an audience of 1,000 online, you're like, man, it's just not very big. Well, if there was 1,000 people in a room, what would that look like? It's packed.
You'd have some things to say. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, 1,000 people in the room, you've got their undivided attention.
Sure.
Okay, so, there's, again, it's a process of elimination. It may take 10,000 people to be equal to 1,000 people in person and whatnot to get those results. But again, when you're in front of those people, are you commanding their attention? And do they walk away saying, that guy, that person or that brand or whatever it is, I'm not interested in it now or I don't need it now, but that's the real deal.
So that's a good pushback, because I think I'm probably hovering around maybe 2,000 folks as we record this, and I don't know that I have that story. I think I have a general disdain for social media. I think it's the devil, and I need to get over that. But
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
And I don't love it. Okay, but it's necessary. All right, there's a lot of things that I don't like to do. Honestly, I really prefer a lot of days to not work out. You know what I mean? It's pain. It's pain, and. God, man, the Lord works in so many mysterious ways. I haven't really talked about this a lot, and I'll talk about it today. 2024 has been one of the hardest years for my family. Stuff that's just circumstances out of control. You know what I mean? It's been a extremely tough year. There's been some partnerships and deals that we got into that shouldn't have been as hard as they were to come into fruition. But we picked the wrong people, or we had to go separate ways from other folks, and there was a lot of
turmoil, or
not necessarily turmoil. It's just they weren't the right people. Dude, I got to do a better job of making sure that when you play at the level I play at, I can only have A players.
Yeah.
And a lot of times my heart's so big, I want somebody to succeed so bad. I'm not really being honest, looking at the writing on the wall and saying. If it was sports, I can be like, dude, the kid hit, he hit 50, zero.
You got metrics you can hone in on and say, look, man, I think you see what I see. It ain't for you.
That's right, and it's not even good for the kid to stay with us if that's the situation they're in. So why would I not apply that in the workforce. Like obviously somebody's failing over and over again, and I'm keeping them here.
Yeah.
I'm obviously keeping them here for them, but actually I'm doing is holding them back, dude. They gotta get in a they gotta change and be in a different environment because they're not winning here. So I got to do a better job of we hire fast, I got to fire faster,
Yep.
right? And but like going back to what's been hard this year, it was like all within like days of each other. We had a death in the family. My dad and stepmom were in a pretty horrific car accident, literally like within 8 hours of each other. The studio in which we're in today, there's a lot of construction going on around here, and we lost power supplies. We had to cancel a bunch of stuff. It was really expensive. We spent about close to $500,000 renovating the outside of our home with a pool and all kinds of stuff.
That pool nightmare. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. And like literally like we woke up one day and there was a malfunction in one of the water features or something, but we woke up and the whole wall of the pool had collapsed. And like it's 2 months and we're still got a hole in the ground that we're still working on getting fixed, and who's responsible for it.
2 summer months, 2 hot summer months, man, where the kids want to be out there.
Dude, we had all this work stuff planned there because it's beautiful, and we've had to cancel that and push, and it's just like one thing after another. We've been getting hit, and you got to remember, dude, like first of all, I got to thank the Lord that he trusts me enough to deal with all that. And secondly, I got to understand that that's preparation. Just like when you're preparing for a baseball season, you're going to put yourself through hell to get there. Derek Jeter said that all the time. Game 7 in the World Series versus spring training, if you treat practice the same way that you would Game 7, then Game 7 is just another day, okay? And you can eliminate the pressure that crushes most people. That's why he thrived under pressure. He had the ability to slow the game down based on how he prepared. Right, so I got to remember that when things are happening to you, they're actually happening for you, even though it's brutal, man, and it's hell when you go through it. But like that's been a real struggle for me because I went through that. I was dominant at being able to live that life, and then stuff got really good, and it's been really, really good for a long time. And maybe Nick got a little soft.
Yeah, buddy. And so it's funny because people ask for that life. They ask for that life that obviously. I've known you for a while, that a lot of people want what you have. They want to, be able to kind of wake up and say, what do I want to do today? Not what do I have to do? Dude. And then you run 2 or 3 years like that, and then all of a sudden, whap, you ready for this? Because, there was a saying that kept coming up as you were talking, but I didn't want to cut you off. It's, you show me the size of the problem, and I'll show you the size of the man. And so when you're talking about like this cascade of like, circumstances that most people would have crumbled under one, and now you've got 6, 7 things that you're juggling at the same time. It's a beautiful reframe or perspective shift for you to look at it like, this is preparing me for something. My man is really, really trying to get me ready for the next evolution.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. Because, obviously what we're working towards, there's a lot of big, massive plays in the works.
Yeah.
Dude, this is uncharted territory. So we're going to run into things that we're not prepared for. There's no way to prepare for them because we've never done them before. But I have to remind myself all the time, I can't complain about having too much on my plate when my goal is to freaking eat, man.
Yeah, buddy.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, again, all those are blessings. And my wife's going to be like, well, you don't say that at home. But it's, she's such a saint because, she does not crumble in situations like that. And, dude, I get mad. I'm like the Incredible Hulk, dude, the red one, So my temper is ridiculous. And I've shown sides of myself that I thought I'd overcome this year. It's been very.
That's that test, though. That's that test. So my man, again, let's just use God for a second. He's like, all right, it's been so good. We haven't seen if he's processed these things that usually would trigger him. That would turn him into Red Hulk.
Absolutely.
So let's throw like this. Let's just throw like 10 boulders at him as he's trying to climb this hill, and let's see how he reacts. Oh, hey man. By the way, there's a lesson here. There's a lesson in all of this. Like you still got some work to do because you think these. Again, we'll use the circumstances you just brought as boulders. You think these boulders are something? Like there's some big stuff coming. And if you can't process these, and if you're still going to trigger and go back to Red Hulk, then you're not ready for the next evolution. So handle this, and I'll show you next.
Dude, 6 figures worth of problems. And not to mention, when you do those renovations on homes like that, it's a real estate play. You're moving money here to get reappraised, and now you've got more equity. Now you can move, you can shuffle all that money all over the place. Well, that money's been freaking stuck, dude, for over a year, and we had plans for that money, and on top of that, throw 6 figures of expenses we weren't expecting, right? That we're having to front while we fight for everybody else who's responsible to pay for it. So it's been, we're surrounded by great people, but dude, we're not. the problems can come for anybody. Nobody's excluded from that stuff. Life happens, and it's all in how you say it. Life happened to me, or no, life happened to me.
Yeah,
and,
buddy.
So for us, that's been. All I can say is I'm so excited for what's next because,
well, let's talk a bit about what's next. I know you can't go into too much detail. We talk a lot offline. We talk all the time, but you talk about your wife being a saint, and we both have got some absolute killers in our corner, which is the only reason we can even hang out and goof off on these podcasts once in a while.
That's right.
Is she going with you on this tour? Can we talk a little bit about this? What is it? 50 states and 16. What are you doing?
50 dates, around 16 cities, in about 6 months, and we've partnered up with a lot of big announcements coming out around that, but with a great company. To go out and do a lot of great things, but there's a product that will be evolving and beneath all of what's going on in the public eye that is going to be really exciting to come to. So just leveraging a lot of the people in your network, leveraging a lot of the technology that we could be doing a lot better with. We've got some unbelievable people in our circles when it comes to CRMs and targeting and what you can do with AI, and when you put those worlds together, and then even some amazing sources for data, and how all that's going to play into how that connects to social media. The biggest thing, Nick, is that people that do a lot of great things with data usually don't do very well online with social media or digital marketing that way. And people that what I've been guilty of for a long time too is winning in the digital marketing, social media side, but then letting the CRM side and the data and the targeting kind of fall through.
And I know you're the supreme connector. So you went out and you connected all the dots and said, who's the master in this area? Cool. Who's got CRM locked? Who's got AI locked? Who's got just raw data? Compilation and extract. Like, who's got it all locked? Because I've got this locked. So let's form this little Avengers right here and let's get after it. And by the way, I want to make a note of this, because he glossed over it pretty quickly, but another phone call I got from Mr. Hyder recently was, I don't know why I'm calling you Mr. Hyder, like a super official. My man, Nick Hyder, literally was, hey man, I talked to Hudson, which is like he's calling my AI guy. He's just in my network. He's technically my number 2 at the program, but he's like, I'm working with your AI guy and we're putting some things together. I need you involved because he's part of your team, but even if you're not involved, like, don't worry, you're going to eat. And I just want you guys to take a minute here and just kind of note things around abundance, because a lot of people talk a big game and they talk about it, but for every hour that my AI guy is contributing to this new project, I'm losing him. Mm-hmm. I don't mind, because if it feeds my AI guy and it feeds Hyder, and if it feeds me, great. If not, and everyone's working in abundance and the ecosystem's thriving, and look at me. I'm in his studio. Hey, Nick, you don't have a studio right now. You've got your basement. It's kind of half-assed. Why don't you come use all this stuff that I spent tons of money on? It's right down the street. So it's like everybody's just constantly leveraging resources, but from a place of pure abundance. I'm not like, well, you can use my AI guy, but only for 3 hours a week. And here's what it's going to cost you. And here's how it looks. Like, it's insane when you just like literally say, hey, man, whatever tool I have, get after it. You know what I mean?
That's it.
And then we just, all we've done is just like, it's been symbiotic as much as we can reciprocate. If I can add value to your world, no question asked, I know it'll come back around. And if it doesn't come from you, it'll come from my man, because that's how the game's played.
Come on with it, baby. That's right. That's right. Even like the studio that we're in today, it's kind of like, when we built it, I built it for me. I built it for me. And then I built the team that does all the posts and everything else for me. And people started saying, hey, can I use your studio? Can the team do stuff for me? That's where the Hit Lab came from. It became a business almost out of just kind of necessity. And the reason that the Hit Lab's located in our Team Hyder insurance office, right? So the insurance office has changed. The purpose of the office has changed drastically, multiple times over the past few years. The reason that I like kind of the Hit Lab being kind of almost like a little bit of a secret, kind of like a hidden speakeasy type thing,
yeah.
Like you got to know the code or know somebody to get in it. But there's, that's cool. But the main reason that we haven't changed the sign out front, because again, the majority of stuff going on in here is Hit Lab. It's full in here, is because when you're in a retail place like you are, the landlord has certain businesses that can be in there. Okay, so an insurance office in between all the other businesses that we're at is a great fit. If you want to basically change businesses or a whole nother concept in there, not only do you have to go back to the drawing board with signage that's $10,000,
sure,
and all those things, then also like the landlord may not want that in there.
Yep.
So we're still, my wife still runs appointments out here all the time.
Well, plus I think it's cool to pay homage to what the thing that put you on, because I think
No doubt.
we both have one of those. Like, you've got insurance, I had debt collection. As much as I despise that industry, and I'm always like I am bad talking most of the players in there. I mean, that was my bread and butter. That's what made all my money was getting 500 kids on phones and dialing for dollars.
That's right.
So I think it's cool. Every time I pull up, I'm like, yeah, I get it.
That's right.
That's the gem that started this whole thing.
It is, and so and Team Hyder's also, it's not just an insurance company; it's an umbrella. It's basically the umbrella that all of our stuff's underneath too. So
nice.
that's kind of cool about that. We're doing a lot of things. Everything that we're renovating here in the spot now is going to go with this till we open the new bigger spot. We were going to be doing that in 2024. And then the opportunity of Coach Burt and the Greatness Factory came about, which that's been, a massive undertaking on his behalf to get that place finished and whatnot. Anytime you're doing construction like that downtown, $7-8 million.
I haven't been over there in a couple of months. Is it still? I mean, I was about 99%. I think the bottom floor was the only thing that needed some like major work, I think.
And it's open now, right?
Okay.
So it's open. You walk in through the main entrance. It's freaking beautiful. It's getting busy in there, and it's only getting better. We got a lot of the same the hit lab techs in there, all the stuff that makes this studio unique in what it is, but more importantly, like the teams that are in there that are operating the stuff is freaking top notch, man. So again, that's the biggest mistake that I think people make when they finally decide to get in the content game is they're just dipping their toes in the water. They don't want to spend a lot of money. Why? Because they don't know exactly what they're doing or what kind of results they should get. So they don't know how much to invest because they can't.
Well, let's talk about that for a second,
return.
just for the sake of my listeners, because I've got guys at all different phases of their journey, entrepreneurial-wise. What would you say is like a non-negotiable? I wouldn't say don't get in the game unless you don't, because I know you want everyone to get in. But if you were going to actually, let's jump the fence from interested to committed. I'm committed to growing my personal brand and my business brand, and I'm committed to social media platforms and using them as the way they should, leveraging them. What is the lowest, what is the absolute least amount that you should to find, right? Be resourceful to commit to this play.
Well, you can buy you can put out some pretty decent content with your phone and some basic cheap lights from Amazon and some microphones and whatnot, which is great. And everybody should have those just because there might not always be a team around you. Sure. I went to Florida with my family for a baseball tournament, and a clip was actually ran today that we're filming that's from a lot of footage from that. And it's just, I shot that myself, or my wife shot it with our phones while we were there. We didn't want to take a camera crew. It was a family thing, But as far as getting started, so, first of all, I could show you my Instagram inbox right now, and there's hundreds of content creators that are saying, hey, man, this is what I can do better with your stuff, and so on and so forth. And I'm like, well, first of all, you don't know me. You don't know what we did.
I can't imagine how many you have, because that's actually the number one thing in my inbox, and I have 2,000 versus however many you have. So it's that's probably who I get hit up the most. They're like, dude, the stuff you're saying is awesome. The quality of the production is shit. So
absolutely,
and they're always jamming me up. Yeah.
Dude, they are, and it's nothing against them. It's a hustle, and they're trying to get there. But so what I learned was, and it's the same reason that the biggest thought leaders and influencers, they have their own team. Why do they have their own team? Why didn't they hire somebody else's team? Well, it's because what I've learned, the same thing. The people that shoot the content, it was shot with the purpose. It'd be like if in a Hollywood movie or in a TV show, if the director and producer weren't talking to the people that were editing, and it was like there was no communication in between. Well, what would actually come out of that?
Oh, I can tell you what comes out of it. Sorry to cut you off, because I'll have a guy that can't make. I run a lot of events, so if I'm on my 13th event for the year and my guy can't fly out to Nashville or Vegas or wherever we're at, I'll grab a random dude to shoot it. And then, of course, I want my guy to do it because he knows the brand and whatever, and he hates it. So exactly what you just said. He's like, I refuse to edit, to chop up, to create, a highlight reel and all the things that you want for this off of someone else's footage. Because, again, he didn't shoot it with the intention of doing that. Yeah.
If they don't actually know you, know who your avatar is, know your customer is, know what your purpose is, know why you do what you do, how much you need to get to eat. If they don't know those things, how can they actually create content that will give you that? You know what I'm saying? And when you shot it, it was shot with a purpose. Literally, we did all that stuff pre-production before we started shooting today. Well, if you send it to somebody that don't know you, that's just, that you're just a number in their system, and all they're going to do is dump that footage into an AI, and it's going to scrape what it thinks is the best, and that's not at all what we're trying to accomplish today. And they're going to send it back and be like, there you go, man.
Yeah.
Here's the invoice too. Again, there has to be like a relationship between you and the people that are making all of your stuff, because everything that you did for a reason. All the little things that you did, from what you ate that day to did you work out first and all those things, so that you performed when it was time to go on. Well, dude, they got to know everything that you did, why you did it, to be able to make sure that they can show that on the other side. You know what I mean? So imagine if James Cameron shooting Titanic and they're like, they literally like, guys, we got one take at this because the sun's going to set, and if not, we got to do it again tomorrow, and it's millions of dollars.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We got one shot. Well, dude, if everybody's not on the same page, you don't get it, you know? So there's it's just basic advertising, man. Like, you know what I mean? But it's again, if
all right, so I can't afford all that right out of the gate. I'm just trying to get my wheels underneath me, right? Like, again, so I'm hearing this and I'm like, you know what? They're absolutely right. I spent 10 G's on my website. I've spent $10 on social. I want to commit a portion of my budget, but I'm a beginner. I'm a solopreneur. I don't have the funds. It's not in my budget right now. Like, again, I don't want you to give me the least, like what's the barrier to entry for this game to at least see some version of results? Because we can bake out a formula after that whereby 22% of all your traffic converts to doubling down on traffic, right?
That's
we can
right.
create that algorithm later, but my question is, like, what's the bare minimum in your opinion? No one's going to hold you to it to get in the game. Monthly spend.
Well, first of all, I'm a big believer in, like, I don't really know if I can hire correctly if I don't really know, especially in this industry. Like, a real editor is gonna not just dump it into a machine and let it spit out stuff.
Munch or Opus Clip or whatever people are using now.
They're gonna watch it.
Sure.
So if it's an hour's worth of footage, they're gonna spend an hour just watching it before they even go back and get it. So it's kind of like reading a book. So, like, you need to understand how much time is going that these people are doing, and honestly, what skills. Like if you went to a doctor, would you not want to know what school they went to, did they even graduate? Are they a real doctor even or not? So again, this is somebody that's taking something that is a literal version of you that is going to live on the internet forever, and are they going to be able to paint that picture? So as far as getting started goes, if you had to figure out the biggest problem that you solve, what's the one word problem that you solve? And in an elevator pitch, 2 sentences, how do you solve that problem? Well, how many ways can you say that? And you need to shoot that it's got to be something that somebody can stand to watch.
So far, everything you've listed is something that the entrepreneur can do himself. They can
literally do themselves.
Yeah, so if you guys are listening, and this is a huge exercise, this will kick you in the teeth, by the way. This is probably going to stop some of you. And if you're in your car, pull over and think about this, please. Can you define a one-word problem that you solve? And then if you've gotten that far, and it's difficult, right? So, like, we use self-sabotage a lot, and it's hyphenated, but it's still one word. But it's programming. All that to say, now you've got your one word, and then can you give me a 2-sentence max elevator pitch on how? So the process that you use to actually solve said problem. If you can get that far, you're doing all right. And to your point, we could shut a room down with that, because 90% of dudes can't get that far.
That's right.
They can't sum it up in one word. They can't show how they solve it in 2 sentences. And then the next step that my man said, hopefully you guys are listening, is start making a list of all the different ways that you can say what you just said in your elevator pitch. I solved this one-word thing. This is how I solve it. These are all the ways I can tell you exactly what I just told you in my 2-minute elevator pitch, 2-sentence elevator pitch.
Yeah.
When you get there, then what? So now you've got all that. You got those ducks in a row. Now you got to go looking for...
You got those ducks in a row. I learned a lot from my editors. So I was shooting a lot of stuff myself. So I think you hire somebody that can start to get to know you and give you feedback on, hey man, when you shoot that, light it up this way. You want to create this type of shot. In my opinion, I would spend money on the post-production first versus the
pre. Yeah, because you'll get guys that go out and buy this $2,000 camera because someone said to buy it.
That's right.
And maybe they don't go with the ring light from Amazon. They go and get all this basically pre-production. They're like, I spent, even my basement setup, I think I'm in the $25,000 range, and it's nowhere near this. But what's interesting is the magic's all in the post.
That's right.
Okay, so when you say, don't put the cart before the horse, let's go look at post-production. What do you mean by that? What are you thinking in this level of the game when you talk about spending money on post?
Well, you're going to get a lot of feedback from them on, like, can you even make it look pretty? Can you package it up and make it look pretty? But again, you need some expert that knows how to create something that can say, hey man, based on the problem you solve and who your customer is, when those people see it, it's going to disrupt whatever it is that they were doing, and they're going to take notice, right? And then we need to make sure that we get in front of them a certain amount of time. So the like the editing team that I've got now, I've had for years, and they do a great job. We've added people. We've had to let some people go, but the people that were there since day one are still here, which is fantastic. So they know my voice. They know what I'm about, and they know what I'm trying to accomplish, and who I'm trying to accomplish it for. So now when they're making those things, they're making it with that in mind, with those people in mind. And now there's video teams and everything else. It's funny because we have an accelerator program at the Hit Lab where it's literally just like you got to have content. So like we usually people usually start backwards, in my opinion, but whatever's best for that person. So, but in a perfect world, spend the money on the post, because then that's going to be because I think you can get conversions faster, which is just going to feed or it's going to fund
the pre and the. So real quick, just because I think maybe someone might be confused on what post is. So it's the people, and is it software, is it things, or is it just so you're saying the team that knows that can learn your message that you're trying to get to the masses, and then can tell you how to choreograph said message so it has the biggest impact, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we could all agree that if you went and paid, if the new Spider-Man was shot in 1080 versus 12K, you're going to be like, man, that movie sucked. And it's the same movie, just shot with a worse camera.
Yeah.
Or if the shot weren't played out, and dude, you can literally watch a movie or a scene from a movie without music, background music, and watch it with, and it's the same words. But when you put that behind it, it totally changes the dynamic and the emotion that's captured in that scene, right? So, the person that's making your stuff, first of all, if you're editing your own stuff, congratulations. That's a big first step.
Yeah.
But what do you know about that?
Yeah. And it's so time consuming. Dude, if I could tell you right now, I've chopped up probably over 100 reels myself from long form, like a podcast or a YouTube thing that I taught on. It is a nightmare. And to your point, I'm like, what track's hot right now? I'm going for melancholy. I'm going for pensive, and I just find it's so random. And then is it too loud? Can you hear my voice? Where should I put the volume on this? When should it come in? What section should I loop?
Absolutely.
I'm out. I'm done. I'm already pissed off.
Oh man, mixing it is huge, and you can even if you go to a concert, cheap drums versus expensive drums, you can make them sound about the same. It's just how much it's easier to make them sound good with obviously with better drums or a name brand guitar or something like that. But it's really the player, can they play it, and then what can the people that are on the other end make it sound like? So that's been a huge thing. You can go on Instagram and check out all the drummers, and they'll be like, $200 drum set, $2,000 drum set, and dude, they sound the same. Yeah. They'll say, can you guess which one is which? And when you can't do that, that just lets you know it's all in the post. It's all in what happens after it was shot.
Yeah.
Who masters it, right? So, in my opinion, and it's just my opinion, and again, there's clients that are going to be like, wait a minute, Nick, though we're doing the opposite, right? Well, again, that's just where you were and what you needed specifically. I would say invest in the post first, because you're going to learn so much more about you can shoot all day long, but if they're not giving you feedback on it's almost like exiting a company, starting with the end in mind and working backwards. So let the people at the end, they're going to package it and make it look pretty. And
it's going to change every single move that you make. So
absolutely.
This is the finished product, and this is how we got there. This is what we want from you. Now go off and create some B-roll. Give me some content. You're going to completely change the way, like you said, how you show up for that content.
Oh, dude, what we shot in down there in South Florida for the baseball stuff, most of the time it was my wife just pulling into the stadium with her phone through the windshield and stuff. Dude, you ought to see, you can go in and see what he made it look like. You know what I mean? By the time the music's behind it, you color correct it a little bit, you add some filters or whatnot, you slow things down and speed it back up, zoom in, zoom out. Dude, it totally made it look like it was a professionally shot. Because the iPhone's got a good camera on it, it's a solid little camera. So for
but all that was post. So you took the thing and then post made it look like a James Cameron full blown.
Dude, we took a week's worth of basically B-roll.
Yeah.
And just dropped it in the drive in a folder, and he went and made 2 or 3 different clips out of it. It just made it look great. And again, why would you post stuff about a baseball tournament, Nick? Because one of my things is I'm a big family guy. You know what I mean? And again, people need to trust me. So in my opinion, I think you trust people that care about their families and spend time with their kids and do all those things. It's not all about the money. It's about why we do what we do, and why I do what I do is for the family. So it's for me, that's a big part of the brand. It's one of the things that makes me stand out. Not a lot of guys in my space have the time or the capacity to do what I do with my son and his baseball team and invest in those young men and basically just donate a whole bunch of time all year long. And that's something that makes me different, so we market that.
And by the way, we didn't get into a story too much because everybody asks about your story on podcasts, so sometimes I stay away from that. My man was a pro ball player. His son is jacked. The most jacked. How old is he now?
He just turned 15.
15. This kid is like, anyway, I don't know if his dream's to go pro, but I'm just going to call it out now. If he wants it, it's his. If he wants it, it's a no-brainer. And not only because of the kid, but the way that my man is showing up for him, because the reality is, when you talk about family first, like I've known you long enough now, like I can't get a hold of you after, 5, 6 o'clock. You don't exist. Your phone is literally in family mode, do not disturb mode. So it is big. I think probably a lot of guys missing the mark there too. They're only posting the things they think their audience wants to see financially, right? Or like all the wins or all and everyone's always just putting highlights out there. But even to talk about your struggles, to talk about the pool, to talk about the car accident, things like that, like it's definitely different,
Yeah, we talked about it today. We hadn't talked about it a lot since then because when we were going through it, people do business with me because of confidence in that we're good at what we do, and it's about the customer and that we can get the customer to win. When literally it felt like the world was caving in on top of us, I don't know if that gives people security to want to do business with us, right? So that's not something. It was obviously those are personal things too that shouldn't affect your decision in what we're doing. If we build our business right, what's going on personally won't affect that. So we didn't really talk about that a lot. I was like, let's just sit on it. But when we overcome it and we're on the other side of it, then we can address it. Then we can talk about it and how we used it to help us and fuel us and get us to the next place.
Nice.
So that was a big thing. Very few people know about the pool.
You may edit that out. You could edit that out.
No, man, we're good now because we're almost on the other side of it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But it's been a painful. I mean, the process has sucked. There's dozens, if not more, hours figuring out. Why did it happen? What had happened? When engineers come to look at it, somebody's got to be there. So it's it was a major distraction in what it is that we're doing, and so again. With that distraction that was unavoidable, we still had things to accomplish with or without the distraction. So it made us really hone in and find a new level, a new gear that we hadn't found before. On top of the fact that once we get past that, now that's no longer there, and then we've got that new gear, right? Yeah. So we're prepared for whatever's coming next.
Yeah, I love that. That's an excellent perspective. So if we just, I don't want to beat up the content thing too bad, but if someone wanted to, I don't know anything about content. I don't know what these guys are talking about with post. I don't have 25 grand to throw into my basement like this Yahoo. I don't have access to a multi-million-dollar studio. Like, what would you recommend? How do people I don't even, because we haven't talked a lot about the Hit Lab in a while in terms of how you're positioning it in terms of what's available to the marketplace, right? To the public. Like, are you doing something there still?
Well, absolutely. And the Hit Lab is again, guys, like when people are spending 8, 10, 12 hours a day on a screen, like. They need to see you, just like there's certain people in your life that they have to see you in person or you have to call them and have connection with those people. This gives you an opportunity to do that. And when people are consuming that many hours of that much noise, how do you become somebody that people are paying attention to? So the power of a podcast, it's so hard to describe and put into words, from the networking opportunities. All the deals that we're talking about today would not exist without my podcast, right? But at the same time, most people have content problems. Well, the podcast is a great way to have a high quality source where you're talking about
typically valuable things. Yeah, solving a problem. You're talking about something interesting, introspective, deep.
Absolutely.
Valuable. Yeah.
It's most people's content is reality TV. It's not scripted. It's not thought about. They just kind of turn the camera on and stumble through it, right? Versus the pros and what they're really doing well, it's thought about. It's scripted. It's like if you're building a course, you wouldn't just go wing it, right? You'd map it out, just like the curriculum. You know what I'm saying? So with the podcast, it gives you an opportunity to really, you're having a conversation with people most of the time. That conversation is already thought about. You've talked that you've had, you're collabing with that person. So there's 2 people contributing to it. But more importantly, it's a real. So you look like an expert in whatever it is you guys are talking about if the production is good enough. If it sounds good enough, and if it's easy enough to watch, right? So the podcast for me was my first source of really good content. I started just turning the camera on when I had coaching calls or helping people at work, client calls, whatever it may be. I just recorded those, recorded my podcast. I didn't have a content problem anymore. And then that turned into, well, what else can we show them? How else can we add value? How else can we gain their trust? How else can we become a household name? Grant Cardone said it to Brad way back in the day when they were talking about it. And Grant was frustrated. He couldn't get in the door. He said, screw it, man. I'm going to make myself a celebrity. Right? So, again, celebrities get access to things that normal people don't get access to. Right? What is a celebrity? Somebody that's well-known. Right? Yeah. Somebody that's well-known that is usually seen on a screen somewhere. Right? So literally anybody can turn themselves into a celebrity if they want to. My Instagram, when we're filming this today, just hit 50,000 followers on it. Like literally like in the last 48 hours. Dude, that's a big number.
Yeah.
That's a big number.
Well, especially because I've seen your engagement is high too, so it's different, like, I've seen people play the game where you go and I don't know exactly how it's done, but obviously people are purchasing followers and typically IG figures that out and they throttle your account and shadow ban you and all the things, but I've seen yours and it's different. I've seen guys at 50K that are not,
That's right, and they just
3 likes and wanting,
and there's a lot of people throw a lot of shade on buying the followers, and I'm like, well, if you boost a post, are you not buying a follower? So it's just how you spend your money, and was it spent the right way? It's kind of like, I spent a whole bunch of money on camera guys and stuff, and then but the finished product sucked when they put it out when it went online. So it's all on how you spend the money. So again, you can. Like $3,000 can go a long way to start your own little podcast, but you got to focus on production, and then you got to be real honest with yourself. Are you any good? Can you, if your stomach turns watching yourself on camera, well, other people's stomachs might turn too. All right. So, but what's going to make your stomach not turn?
That's a hard one to hear,
dude. You got to. I think the Olympics are happening now, and Simone Biles is talking about practice doesn't. All practice does is give you confidence. Right, so at the end of the day, the difference between a baseball player and a hitter that's in a slump versus not in a slump is how they feel in the box. It's their mind.
Yeah, I agree with that.
They're the same player.
I see it on my son. We both of us play high level sports, and we've got sons that play very high level sports. And he just had a tryout actually at a D1 school.
Damn, that's awesome.
Yeah, they finished 3rd last year in the country.
Wow.
I'll spoil it. He'll be mad when he sees this. He didn't make it. Okay. We actually found out yesterday. That was hard, by the way.
Yeah.
You want to talk about,
but being considered, man.
Yeah, that was the kind of the gist of the quote unquote rejection message was just to be looked at by a D1, finished 3rd last year for NCAA men's soccer, is an honor. But we drove 9 hours each way, stopped by a couple of the D1 programs, but it was a 4-hour, camp, right? 2 hours, and then they quartered him around the campus, showed him all the locker rooms. West Virginia University, gorgeous. I mean, their soccer program's second to none, but. Then another 2 hours, right? And I'm like, in 4 hours, how can you see a kid? And they've been looking at him for 6-7 months, so I can't say they haven't seen him. But yeah, man, I don't know. I guess where I was going with this was it's so mental. These guys,
it is.
You flip a switch and he's a whole other player. And we both actually we left and his mom was with us, so all 3 of us left there thinking he actually did just fine. But when you get that, it was a text message, by the way.
They got to do better now.
Yeah, this is how, and this is tough for me too because we go to the gym a lot, just like you and your son. And we were at the gym yesterday, and he gets it, and he taps me on the shoulder with his phone and hands me his phone, and just walks away. And it was he didn't even want to see Dad because he felt I can't talk about it. So it's this corny stuff, right?
Yeah.
But it's crazy because you're gutted for your kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you get defensive and angry. I'm like, you have no fucking. Do you know what my son is?
That's right.
Anytime I've dropped this kid anywhere, he's made his way to the top every single time. He's been on and. So my first reaction was to call this coach, right? But it ain't my game no more. My man's 17, he's about to be 18.
That's
so it's
right.
This is his story. But yeah, man, I was gutted for him. And mainly because, but at the same time, he got to deal with some adversity and face rejection. Let's see how little man handles this. Let's see
That's
what he
it.
does.
It should.
It's just an experience.
If it pisses him off enough, he's going to find a new level that he didn't even know that he had because good enough ain't good enough.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So those no's, man, it's So, and it was something really cool little story that in my baseball career, my first pro contract and my and my first time getting basically fired or released was within 2 weeks of each other. All right. So the guy that had to let me go, great guy. Obviously I didn't understand the business, but he let me go. And a year or two later, I got to go back and play against him. Oh, I had something to prove.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So there's people that I don't do business with today that I keep receipts and I got something to prove and I'm coming.
And the chip on your shoulder mentality, it actually it'll get you pretty far. I don't know what my son wants to do, but yeah, I do. I totally understand like where you're coming from. He's got a weird situation. He's our baby, so he's got one daughter or one sister. My daughter that went to Bama, who's got some student debt and barely holding down a job and trying to figure out life. And then he's got the middle daughter, so his other oldest sister, who's stepping into the entrepreneur game. And then he's got, I did law school and I did double major minor, 9 years of school, and I'm a business owner. That's my choice was no way. This is a joke. So I don't even know that he's in love with, college has changed, man. If you're going to go and play like D1 ball and then here's the thing too, baseball, you can go from D1 and go do something. Soccer in the States is like, it's kind of it.
Yeah.
It's kind of it, So like I've been trying to get him overseas. He's played over there a couple summers, but I'm trying to get him like some looks overseas. But reality is, even if he went to play D1, like it's almost an ego play at that point because it'll consume your life for 4 years and it'll be beautiful. But then that's for soccer in the United States. That's the end of the road,
Dude, and in the world of baseball with D1 sports, the college coaches aren't even really recruiting the high school kids as much as they used to, just because like. Would you rather have a kid with no experience that's not polished, or go get a kid out of JUCO that's basically pretty much polished? He's faced at a high level college, and because that coach, dude, like that coach is held to a very high standard, and they expect you to win quick. So you can't wait 3 years for kids to develop.
Yep.
That's right. You got to get them right now. So there's so many pieces to that, and then on top of that, how deep are they in the position that your athlete plays? You know what I'm saying? So like if he played a different position, maybe
it's what they're looking for,
100%.
If you don't fit their system, if they've got 4 wingbacks and you're a wingback, like what are we doing? So
that's right.
The craziest thing about soccer, and I'll just share this with the world because maybe you guys, no one knows, it's an international sport. So if you look at Clemson, who won the whole thing last year, 80% of the roster were international kids.
Yeah, it's huge. It's massive how big.
And you guys have it now too, the portal. So because they're bringing in like, you at least face like Costa Rica and the Dominican and stuff. We face like literally Ghana, Brazil, European countries. And these guys are 22-year-old freshmen.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't make it pro in their country. They're about to get a 4-year ride to come experience the U.S., room and board covered, and they're already ballers, and they're already fully matured adults. And so it's definitely a different game, for some of these international. Even right now when you watch the Olympics, it's hilarious because they'll do the U.S. medal count, obviously, as they go. But then watch about 80% of the people that they're referencing. They'll reference a girl from China or Ireland or something. They're like, oh, yeah, she goes to Florida State. Oh, yeah, she's swimming out there.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like at Belmont. Or it's like 90% of these athletes are in the U.S., and then they're out there repping their country to win a medal. So the real medal count for the U.S. is likely through the roof when you consider the resources. But
100%. And I don't remember which Olympics it was, but it was when I was playing. And on the minor league team that I played on, I had teammates that played for Team Greece, Team Australia, Team Canada, and Team USA.
Yeah.
On one minor league team, so it's 100% in spring training. They can get kids internationally younger than they can get kids domestically. So they bring them over here. They basically house them, put them up and everything at like 15, 16 years
15,
old.
yep.
And they groom them until they're of legal age and put them into the system then, So it's very competitive. I ask my son's ball team, the players all the time, like, just like creating separation and standing out in business. All right, well, you're in 9th grade. You're on you're low man on the totem pole on the high school team. How's coach going to notice you? 1, and 2, just because you got noticed is one thing, but how's he going to trust you enough to put you in when it matters, right? So he's got to notice you enough times that he believes you're the person that can do that when you get in there.
There's no like and trust. He doesn't even know who you are. Okay, he kind of
right.
likes you, but does he trust you?
That's right.
So no like and trust shows up everywhere.
Yeah. When the girl you like in school is looking at every other guy but you, how do you get noticed? How do you create separation? We're talking about the same things. It's just life, man.
Yep.
And for whatever reason, when it's business, everybody's like, oh, it's different. No, it's the same. It's just how did you where you were successful in creating separation in other parts of your life? How can you roll that into what you're doing today? And that's like the thing that I'm just blown away with is we're not trained. Our minds aren't trained to do that. Because I'm always having to remind people around me, like, dude, remember you did that and it worked, and then you did it again, but you didn't do it fully. Like you only did 80% of it, and it didn't work. Why did you leave off that other 20%? I don't know. I didn't even realize I did.
Yeah.
So it's again, practice makes confidence. Confidence is just your belief in previous success. You know what I'm saying? It's a track record. It's remembering previous success. But the things that got you where you were. Do you remember all the little things that you did that did it? Because it's seriously, I'm looking at an email and I'm looking at this beautiful offer with no deadline, and we're still waiting on a response. Versus when you sent the same thing with the deadline, we got a response same day, right? So why are we not? It's hard to forecast that way when you're not consistent, man. It's hard.
Yeah, consistency is hands down the most underrated stat. You know what I mean? But most effective.
Absolutely. So there's just a lot of noise out there. It's very dark. The frequencies in music change the way you feel about things. We're not always aware of what we're putting in our bodies or what we consume visually, what we can consume mentally, the books we're reading, or any of that stuff. So it's called paid programming for a reason. Right, so your thing's the program. You're reprogramming people, right? Why do they need reprogramming, Nick? Well, it's because of everything else they consumed prior, right?
100%.
Right, so and all that stuff
it's
was
running
free.
their whole life and they don't know it. And my job is to wake them up and be like, hey, man, you have this much control over anything going on. And I mean, ultimately, we have no control because we know who does. But yeah, man, it's crazy how much, like you said, their program is running their life. We are pushing for time. Do not shoot your staff when you look behind you because your screen went to a screensaver because we had it on too long. So my logo is no longer behind you. And I know how much of a perfectionist my man Nick Hyder is. So
that's all right. It's probably a pretty screensaver back there.
It's beautiful. It's some sort of Google featured photo by Beverly Zeba something. So yeah, man. Any final? I mean, let's just real quick because it is called feedback. We processed the word feedback a million times. I think some of the things that I heard, some takeaways from this from myself, and I'm sure the audience will vary. Was like, know, like, and trust came up several times, but just the ability to start to process the data and course correct and be intentional with your behavior rather than just like we call it spray and pray. It sounds like you guys have evolved into more of like a sniper approach in terms of what platform, what gets put out, what's the call to action. What's the frame? What's the intention? What's the production? What's the post-production? Like, just super intentional. And you can't get intentional until you have the data to process on what your intention now is. So, yeah,
the difference between a great golfer and a PGA golfer is how well they can shoot a target, and how precise they are with their shots.
Yep.
It's the same game for everybody, kinda, but they're not playing the same game. You know what I mean? But the sport is the same. So and the other thing that we're talking about a lot too these days is, every choice you make, subconscious or conscious, is taking you to or away from whatever it is you're working towards.
It's either we call it helpful or harmful. Always ask yourself those two questions. Is this behavior? Is this decision?
That's
right.
Is
it moving the needle one way or the other? Because it always is.
And I believe that, the 80% of decisions that you make that you're not aware of every single day are highly influenced by the 20% that you are aware of. Okay, so if you're consciously making good choices towards your goals, your subconscious choices will probably be more leaning towards those of your goals as well. But if not, you'll start to notice it and you can fix it. But I saw this from Lewis House today. I loved it. The 3 C's of life: choices, chances, changes. You must make a choice to take a chance on your life, or your life will never change. I'm gonna try it one more time. You must make a choice to take a chance, or your life will never change. You know what I mean? And folks, even when you buy a new pair of shoes, they are uncomfortable when you first put them on. And you could say, well, just put back on the ones that are comfortable. But you bought new ones because the other ones were worn out. They can't get you to the next destination, or else you'd keep wearing them.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So anytime that you put on something new, it's going to be important. You got to break it in a little bit and make it yours.
Oh, there's an argument there. The trigger should be when they get comfortable, it's time to replace them.
That's
you know
it.
What I mean? Get you a new pair.
That's it.
That's the only way to get to the next level.
That's it.
100%.
That's it.
Cool, man. Well, I love you for that. I love that last quote. And I 100%, I'm excited for this crazy tour you're going on. Again, I know we couldn't go crazy with it. I'm sure you're going to be dripping some stuff out to both of our audiences specific to that.
A lot of stuff coming out soon. We're finalizing all that. It's going to be very, I'm really excited about it, dude. And quite frankly, again, I'm keeping receipts. So there was some things that from a keynote perspective that I wanted to do, and some people went another way. So I'm like, all right, I see you.
Oof.
I see you.
Yeah.
So I'm coming. Get ready.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So there's again, I like to do things different. So if that's the way all the other guys are doing it, that's fine. I'm going to do something that's never been done before. And we're basically just take one of those lanes that already exist, and it's going to be my HOV lane.
Oof. I like that.
Yes, sir.
Well, cool, man. I'm excited to see you. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for flipping seats and letting me play host this time and run my podcast.
You're a killer, bro.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you. And that's it for today. It's a wrap. Feedback. My man Hyder, and we are out.